You now understand the science. You watched the previous video. You know that biological age is not fixed. You know that mitochondrial function determines energy. You know that cardiovascular capacity indicates longevity. You know that inflammation drives aging. You know that hormonal markers predict your biological future. You know that cellular regeneration is constant and controllable. You understand all of this at an intellectual level. But here's the problem that every person who learns this science faces. Understanding the mechanism is not the same as knowing how to implement it. You can know that mitochondrial adaptation happens through specific training stimuli. But do you know the exact sequence of training that triggers that adaptation? Do you know the timeline? Do you know what it actually feels like when it's happening? Do you know how to measure whether you're succeeding? This is what separates knowledge from wisdom. And this is what separates inspiration from transformation. You can be inspired by Jack LaLanne's results. You can understand the science behind those results. But if you don't know how to actually implement the protocol that produces those results, inspiration fades, motivation wanes. You go back to living the way you were living. Today, we're crossing that bridge from theory to practice. I'm going to give you Jack LaLanne's complete anti-aging protocol, the actual sequence, the actual timeline, the actual implementation, the actual measurements. This is not a general recommendation. This is not eat healthy and exercise. This is the specific system that produces biological age reversal, and it takes 5 years to fully implement. Not because you need 5 years to see results, you'll see results in the first year, but because biological transformation at the deepest level is a 5-year project. It takes 5 years for all the adaptations to compound. It takes 5 years to rebuild your cellular foundation. It takes 5 years for your body to fundamentally change what it considers normal. Let me start by explaining why 5 years, because this is critical. Why 5 years? The timeline of biological transformation. Most people approach anti-aging from a short-term perspective. They want to look younger. They want to feel better. They want more energy. These are all achievable in months. But reversing your biological age at the cellular level, actually making your cells younger, this is a different project altogether. Here's what happens in the first year. Your body responds to new training stimuli. Your cardiovascular system improves. Your muscles adapt. Your strength increases. Your body composition changes. You lose fat, gain muscle. You feel dramatically better. This is the easy year. This is where you see visible results. Your energy increases. Your clothes fit differently. People comment on how good you look. But here's what's actually happening underneath. Your mitochondria are beginning to adapt. New mitochondria are being created. Your cells are starting to signal differently. Your hormones are beginning to rebalance. Your inflammatory markers are starting to decrease. But the deep cellular work, the fundamental rewriting of how your cells function, this is just beginning. In year 2, things slow down visually, but accelerate at the cellular level. You might not see as much dramatic change. The fat loss continues, but more slowly. The strength gains continue, but less dramatically. But underneath, the mitochondrial adaptation is happening at scale. Your cells have more energy-producing capacity. Your organs are becoming more efficient. Your cardiovascular system is becoming genuinely superior. Your cellular stress response is becoming more resilient. By year 3, people often feel like they're stuck. The visual changes have plateaued. The dramatic improvements have slowed. But this is when the deepest work is happening. Your cardiovascular system is now genuinely transformed. Your VO2 max is at levels that younger people don't achieve. Your heart rate recovery is elite. Your blood pressure is optimized. Your vascular system is rejuvenated. But more importantly, your cells have begun to fundamentally rewrite their aging programs. Year 4 is when adaptation becomes deeply integrated. Your body now operates at a new baseline. What used to be your good day is now your normal day. What used to be your normal day is now your tired day. Your entire physiology has shifted. Your hormonal baseline has changed. Your inflammatory baseline has dropped. Your cellular repair mechanisms have become extraordinarily efficient. Year 5 is when transformation compounds into something remarkable. 5 years of consistent practice, 5 years of progressive training, 5 years of dietary discipline, 5 years of recovery optimization, 5 years of cellular rejuvenation. At this point, something has happened that most people never experience. Your biological age has actually reversed. You're not just healthier than you were, you're biologically younger than you were 5 years ago. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable. Your VO2 max is higher. Your body composition is better. Your blood work shows lower inflammation. Your hormonal markers show better function. Your telomeres, your cellular aging clock, have actually lengthened. Your mitochondrial density is significantly higher. You are, at the cellular level, younger. Jack LaLanne lived this 5-year protocol repeatedly across his lifetime. He didn't just do it once and coast. He repeatedly cycled through intense 5-year periods of transformation, followed by maintenance periods, then would begin another transformation cycle. By the time he reached his 90s, he had cycled through many 5-year transformation periods. Each one had moved him further from the aging trajectory and deeper into the anti-aging trajectory. So, when we talk about reversing a decade of aging in 5 years, this is what we mean. It's not magical. It's not some secret supplement. It's a systematic protocol applied consistently over time. The 5-year protocol overview. Here's the structure. Year 1 is foundation. You're establishing baseline. You're learning protocols. You're making dramatic visible changes. Year 2 is mitochondrial emphasis. Your training is designed specifically to trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. Year 3 is cardiovascular emphasis. Your entire training and nutrition is organized around optimizing cardiovascular function and reversing cardiovascular aging. Year 4 is hormonal emphasis. Your training, nutrition, sleep, and stress management are all organized around optimizing hormonal markers. Year 5 is cellular emphasis. Everything is organized around maximizing cellular regeneration and repair. This is not a random structure. It's sequential because each layer builds on previous layers. You can't optimize hormones in year 2 if you haven't built mitochondrial capacity in year 1. You can't achieve true cardiovascular reversal in year 3 if you don't have the mitochondrial foundation. You can't access the deepest cellular repair in year 5 if you haven't built all the previous foundations. Let me go through each year in detail, because the specific protocols matter. Year 1, foundation phase, months 1 to 12. Year 1 has multiple components running simultaneously, but the emphasis is on establishing baseline, learning new protocols, and creating initial dramatic improvements. Training. You begin with resistance training foundation. This is deliberate, progressive, compound movement training. 3 days per week of structured strength work. Nothing fancy, squats, deadlifts, presses, rows. The goal is not maximum strength. The goal is to establish neuromuscular connection, build a base of muscle tissue, and create training stimulus for adaptation. 2 days per week of cardiovascular conditioning. This is moderate intensity, not sprinting, not steady-state long distance. Moderate intensity intervals, 15 to 20 minutes per session. The goal is to establish cardiovascular baseline and create initial adaptation stimulus without overwhelming your system. 1 day of mobility and recovery work. Active stretching, yoga-style work, breathing protocols. The goal is to improve movement quality and begin addressing movement restrictions. You're doing this consistently. You're measuring. You're documenting progress. You know your baseline weights. You know your baseline body composition. You know your baseline cardiovascular metrics. Nutrition. You transition your diet in year 1. This is where you eliminate processed foods almost entirely. You begin eating primarily whole foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, quality proteins. You establish eating patterns. You begin intermittent fasting, probably a 14 to 16-hour daily fast. You begin eating with intention. You're documenting how you feel. Energy levels, sleep quality, recovery. You're learning how different foods affect your body. You're not following a restrictive diet. You're learning to nourish yourself. Supplementation. You address obvious deficiencies. Most people are deficient in magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3s. You address these. You're not taking dozens of supplements. You're addressing actual deficiencies with quality supplementation. Sleep. You become serious about sleep. You're aiming for 8 hours nightly. You're optimizing your sleep environment. You're removing screens before bed. You're regulating your sleep schedule. You're taking sleep seriously as a biological intervention. Stress management. You establish daily practices. Meditation, breathing work, time in nature. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consistent practice. You're learning to manage your nervous system. Measurements. At month 0, you establish baseline. Body composition, through either DEXA scan or high-quality scale with body composition analysis. Cardiovascular markers through resting heart rate variability, and ideally VO2 max testing. Blood work, including lipid panel, glucose levels, inflammatory markers, hormone levels. You establish your baseline clearly. You remeasure at month 3, month 6, and month 12. You can see progress. You can see what's working. You can adjust. By the end of year 1, you've achieved multiple things simultaneously. You've built a foundation of muscle. Your cardiovascular system has improved. Your body composition has shifted dramatically, probably losing 5 to 15 pounds of fat and gaining muscle. Your sleep has improved. Your energy has improved. Your movement quality has improved. You've learned new protocols. You've established habits. But more importantly, at the cellular level, you've begun signaling that change is happening. Your mitochondria have received stimulus to adapt. Your cardiovascular system has begun remodeling. Your hormones have begun rebalancing. Year 2. Mitochondrial emphasis. Months 13 to 24. In year 2, your training changes. You now have a foundation. Your body has adapted to basic training stimulus. Now you need to create more specific stimulus for mitochondrial adaptation. Training. You increase training frequency and total volume. You're now doing 5 training days per week. 3 days of strength training, but the structure has changed. You're using shorter rest periods. You're doing more total volume. You're creating metabolic stress, the stimulus that signals mitochondria to proliferate. 1 day is pure cardiovascular work. 30 to 40 minutes of steady moderate intensity. The goal is to build aerobic capacity and mitochondrial adaptation through sustained work. 1 day is high-intensity interval training. Short, intense efforts with brief recovery. 2 minutes hard, 1 minute easy. Repeated. This is specifically designed to trigger mitochondrial adaptation. 1 day is movement and recovery. The training is more demanding, but you're now adapted to training. Your nervous system can handle it. Your body wants this stimulus. Nutrition. Your nutrition becomes more strategic. You're still eating whole foods. But now you're timing nutrition around training. You're eating more carbohydrates around training. You're optimizing protein intake. You're being more deliberate about nutrient timing. You're also likely adding specific supplementation to support mitochondrial function. Coenzyme Q10, carnitine, perhaps creatine if you're doing strength-focused training. Again, these are not magic. They support mitochondrial function in specific ways. Recovery. Recovery becomes a serious intervention. You're prioritizing sleep. You're now potentially using sauna, cold exposure, or other recovery modalities. You're managing your training load carefully, so you're recovering fully from each training session. Measurements. At months 15, 18, 21, and 24, you remeasure. You're looking specifically at changes in mitochondrial markers if possible, ideally through VO2 max testing, which indicates mitochondrial capacity. You're looking at resting metabolic rate. You're looking at how much training you can tolerate and recover from. You're looking at energy levels and training performance. By end of year 2, your mitochondrial capacity has significantly increased. Your VO2 max has improved substantially. Your ability to do work has increased dramatically. You can train harder and recover better. Your energy levels are high. Your body has fundamentally changed its capacity for generating energy. Year 3. Cardiovascular emphasis. Months 25-36. By year 3, you have mitochondrial capacity. You have training base. Now you're specifically targeting cardiovascular reversal. Training. Your training is now organized to specifically improve cardiovascular markers. You're doing work that improves VO2 max directly. You're doing work that improves stroke volume, how much blood your heart pumps per beat. You're doing work that improves vascular function, the ability of your blood vessels to dilate and deliver oxygen. This looks like high-intensity intervals designed specifically for VO2 max stimulus. Typically efforts at 95% or higher of maximum heart rate for intervals of 3 to 5 minutes, with recovery periods. This is scientifically proven to maximize VO2 max improvements. Moderate intensity steady work. Long, slow-distance training that builds aerobic capacity and vascular adaptation. Strength training continues but becomes secondary. You're maintaining the muscle you built. You're not dramatically increasing it. The total training volume increases. You're doing more training. 6 training days per week is not uncommon, but your nervous system can handle it because of the foundation you've built. Nutrition. Nutrition continues to support training and recovery. You're eating enough to fuel training and recover fully. You're continuing to optimize based on how you feel. Recovery and stress management. These become critically important. With increased training volume, recovery is essential. You're managing sleep closely. You're managing stress. You're potentially using additional recovery modalities. Measurements. You're tracking VO2 max specifically. You're tracking cardiovascular metrics. Resting heart rate recovery after training, blood pressure, arterial stiffness if you can measure it. These are the specific markers of cardiovascular aging, and you want to see them improve significantly in year 3. By the end of year 3, your cardiovascular system has been completely rebuilt. Your VO2 max is exceptional, likely better than people 20 or 30 years younger. Your resting heart rate is low. Your blood pressure is optimized. Your cardiovascular recovery is elite. At the vascular level, you've reversed decades of aging. Year 4. Hormonal emphasis, months 37-48. In year 4, your training becomes somewhat secondary. You've built fitness. Now you're using training as one intervention among many to optimize hormones. Training. Training continues at maintenance level. You're maintaining the cardiovascular capacity you built. You're maintaining muscle. But you're not trying to dramatically improve either. Instead, training is structured specifically to optimize hormonal markers. For men, this means testosterone optimization. You're doing strength training that maximizes testosterone response. Heavy resistance training, compound movements, done with intensity. You're managing training volume carefully because excessive training volume actually suppresses testosterone and other anabolic hormones. You're training hard, but not excessively. You're managing recovery to maximize hormone production during sleep. Nutrition. Nutrition becomes much more important than training for hormonal optimization. You're ensuring adequate calories, you're ensuring adequate protein, you're ensuring adequate micronutrients. You're likely eating more carbohydrates around training to support hormone production. You're eating enough healthy fats because hormones are made from cholesterol. You're removing substances that suppress hormones. Sleep. Sleep becomes critical. Growth hormone is produced during deep sleep. Testosterone is produced during sleep. All hormonal optimization is dependent on sleep quality and quantity. You're aiming for 8 to 9 hours nightly. You're optimizing sleep environment. You're potentially using sleep-supporting supplements. Stress management. Stress suppresses nearly all beneficial hormones. In year 4, stress management becomes a major intervention. Meditation, time in nature, relationships, activities you enjoy. You're deliberately managing stress because stress management directly impacts hormone levels. Measurements. You're measuring hormone levels specifically. Testosterone, growth hormone, insulin sensitivity, cortisol, thyroid hormones. You're looking for them to optimize, and you're measuring them repeatedly to see the impact of your interventions. By the end of year 4, your hormonal profile has been completely re-optimized. Your testosterone is optimized. Your growth hormone is functioning well. Your thyroid is working properly. Your cortisol is balanced. Your insulin sensitivity is excellent. These are the markers of biological youth, and they've been optimized through intentional intervention. Year 5. Cellular emphasis. Months 49-60. In year 5, everything comes together. You have mitochondrial capacity. You have cardiovascular function. You have optimized hormones. Now you're maximizing cellular regeneration and repair. Training. Training is now maintenance. You're doing enough to maintain everything you've built. But the primary intervention is no longer training. The primary intervention is cellular regeneration. Nutrition. Nutrition is specifically designed to support cellular regeneration. This likely includes strategic fasting, periods of caloric restriction that trigger autophagy, the cellular cleanup process. You're eating nutrient-dense whole foods that support cellular repair. You're likely including specific foods or supplements known to support cellular regeneration. Polyphenols from fruits and vegetables. Compounds from spices. You're optimizing at the cellular nutrient level. Supplementation. Supplementation becomes more targeted. You're using compounds known to support cellular regeneration. NAD+ precursors. Mitochondrial support compounds. Anti-inflammatory compounds. You're using supplementation as a tool for cellular optimization. Fasting. Intermittent fasting becomes more strategic. You're using fasting windows deliberately to trigger autophagy and cellular repair. Some people use extended fasting, 24 to 36-hour fasts, periodically to maximize cellular regeneration. Sleep and stress. These remain critical. You're maintaining excellent sleep. You're maintaining stress management, because sleep is when cellular repair happens. Stress suppresses it. Measurements. You're measuring what you can. Blood work showing inflammatory markers, oxidative stress markers if available. You're measuring how you feel. Energy, recovery, sense of well-being. You're measuring objective markers. Resting heart rate, body composition, strength levels. All should be optimized. By the end of year 5, cellular regeneration has been maximized. Your cells are actively repairing and regenerating at a higher rate than they're aging. Your body has flipped from an aging trajectory to an anti-aging trajectory. You're biologically younger than you were 5 years ago. The compound effect of 5 years. Here's what's remarkable about this 5-year structure. Each year builds on previous years. Without the mitochondrial capacity built in year 2, the cardiovascular training of year 3 wouldn't be nearly as effective. Without the cardiovascular improvements of year 3, the hormonal optimization of year 4 wouldn't work as well. Without the hormonal foundation of year 4, the cellular regeneration of year 5 wouldn't be maximized. But together, over 5 years, they create something extraordinary. By year 5, you have not just improved one system. You have improved everything simultaneously. Your mitochondria are exceptional. Your cardiovascular system is exceptional. Your hormones are optimized. Your cells are actively regenerating. Everything is working together. And here's the thing that most people don't understand. This is sustainable. This is not a 5-year sprint after which you burn out. This is establishing new baseline. At the end of year 5, living this way is normal for you. Eating whole foods is your diet. Training is part of your life. Sleep matters. Recovery matters. These are how you live. So you can continue this. You can enter a maintenance phase where you maintain what you've built, or you can cycle through another 5-year transformation period, pushing even further. Jack LaLanne did both. He would have periods of intense transformation, then periods of maintenance where he kept what he'd built while pursuing other interests. Month-by-month breakdown of year 1. Let me give you month-by-month specificity for year 1, because this is where most people struggle. They understand the big picture. They don't know what to do Monday morning. Month 1, you establish baseline and begin learning. You take your baseline measurements. Body composition. Resting heart rate. You begin resistance training 3 days per week. Basic movements. Squats, deadlifts, presses, rows. You do cardiovascular work twice per week. Moderate intensity intervals. 30 minutes per session. You establish sleep schedule. You remove processed foods from your diet. You make dramatic changes. Month 2. You continue the same structure. You're learning the movements. You're getting stronger. You're adapting to training. You're learning your body's response to whole food nutrition. Energy improves. Month 3. You remeasure. You can see progress. Strength has increased noticeably. Body composition has shifted. You've probably lost 5 pounds of fat and gained 3 pounds of muscle. Resting heart rate has decreased. You can see it working. You adjust training intensity based on 3 months of experience. Months 4 through 6. You continue training. Weights increase. Cardiovascular capacity increases. You feel dramatically better. You have more energy. Sleep is better. Your clothes fit differently. You're getting comments about how good you look. Month 6, you remeasure again. You can document 6 months of progress. Strength is significantly higher. Body composition is noticeably better. Cardiovascular markers have improved. You adjust based on 6 months of experience. Months 7 through 9. Training continues. You're now adapted to training. Your nervous system is ready for more. You increase training volume slightly, more sets, more effort. You're pushing harder, you're feeling stronger. Month 9, you remeasure. You can see 9 months of progress clearly. This is motivating. Months 10 through 12. You continue building on the base you've established. You're entering the final months of year 1. You're seeing the culmination of 12 months of consistent effort. Month 12. You remeasure completely. Full battery of measurements. Baseline was month 0. And 12 months later, you can document extraordinary transformation. Body composition has changed dramatically. Strength is significantly higher. Cardiovascular capacity has improved substantially. You feel completely different. You take this month 12 data and you adjust year 2 based on what worked and what didn't. What you'll experience. Here's what the 5-year anti-aging protocol actually feels like, because the science is one thing. Actually living it is another. Months 1 through 3 are exciting. You're seeing rapid change. Energy improves immediately. You lose fat visibly. You gain strength rapidly. Your clothes fit differently. People comment. This phase is motivating. This phase is easy. You want to continue because the results are obvious. Months 4 through 6 are the consolidation phase. Change is still happening, but less dramatically. You might hit a plateau where body composition doesn't change for a month, even though you're training hard. This is when doubt creeps in. This is when you need to remember that invisible change is happening. Mitochondrial adaptation, cardiovascular remodeling. You continue because you've committed, but the motivation is lower. Months 7 through 12 are the integration phase. The new way of living is becoming normal. Training is part of your life. Eating whole foods is your normal diet. Sleep matters. You're not following a diet, you're living a lifestyle. By month 12, this is just how you live. Year 2, you're making progress, but it's slower visibly. The dramatic fat loss has slowed. The strength gains are less dramatic, but you can feel the changes. Your capacity for work is increasing. You can train harder and recover better. You have more energy. You can do things that were difficult before. Year 3. You're becoming incredibly fit. Your cardiovascular system is exceptional. You can do work that impresses people. You can run. You can do intense training. Your recovery is elite. You're sleeping well. Energy is high. Year 4. You're not trying to change how you look anymore. You're at your ideal body composition. You're strong. You're fit. But you're also optimizing things you can't see. Hormones, micronutrient status, cellular health. You might not look dramatically different from year 3, but you feel different. More vital, more alive. Year 5. You're in a different category than most people. Your cardiovascular system is exceptional. Your hormones are optimized. Your cells are regenerating at a high rate. You have energy that seems unlimited. Your recovery from any stress or illness is rapid. You're biologically different from where you started. Adapting the protocol to your starting point. Now, I need to say something important. This protocol I'm describing assumes you're starting from a relatively normal place. You're not significantly overweight. You're not dealing with major health issues. You're generally healthy but aging in the typical way. If your starting point is different, you modify. If you're significantly overweight, year 1 might focus more on body composition change and less on cardiovascular work. If you have cardiovascular disease, you work with a doctor to modify. If you have other health conditions, they inform your protocol, but the structure remains the same. You build foundation. You build mitochondrial capacity. You optimize cardiovascular function. You optimize hormones. You maximize cellular regeneration. The specific details change. The progression remains. Your next step. You now have the protocol, the 5-year structure, the specific details of what happens each year, what you do Monday morning. Your decision is whether you commit to this, not to being perfect, not to following it exactly, but to committing to the general structure, to building foundation in year 1, to supporting mitochondrial adaptation in year 2, to optimizing cardiovascular function in year 3, to optimizing hormones in year 4, to maximizing cellular regeneration in year 5. This is not a diet. This is not a workout program. This is a 5-year project of biological transformation. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be consistent. You're trying to show up. You're trying to follow the protocol. And if you do, the result is something that most people never achieve. You become biologically younger. It's not theoretical. It's measurable. It's real. You live the evidence of it every single day.